How am I gonna get this finished for Amy before the 7:45 carpool? If only Mom had stopped by last night. I know she's lonely since Dad died. So what could I do? Well, I guess I'll just be late to work again.
Hi. I thought you had a meeting.
Sherry Phillips.
Oh, Sherry, thank goodness you're there.
Hi, Michelle.
I don't know what I'd done if you'd already gone to lunch. It'll only take a couple of minutes.
Psst.
Greg came home really mad last night. He said the meanest thing to me. I'd had a bad day and I was just so upset
Oh, well, let me tell you about my day and my week. Of course, you don't care because you never ask. Oh, I'm sorry, Lord.
that we're not. And I knew something was wrong this morning because when I made him his breakfast, he didn't get so upset goodbye and he left, and usually at least I try not to forget what happens. I want to yell at him, but I don't know how to tell him the things that I feel because he just blows up.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm praying for you.
Yeah. I'll call you tonight. Bye. Hello, Sherry Phillips.
Yeah, Sherry, Dan here. Your phone's been busy forever. Listen, I know you're swamped, but I really need you to go over these proofs by tomorrow. Client wants to meet at 8 o'clock. You can make it, can't you?
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks. Knew I could count on you.
Hello?
Sherry, I am in deep water. Margie was going to be the activities coordinator at the retreat, and she's now just canceled. She says she's just overloaded. Anyway, can you take over for her?
I don't know, Phyllis. The weekend of the 20th? We were planning a family getaway that weekend.
Not for me. That's the weekend of the concert.
Yeah, and I have soccer.
I'll be happy to help.
Oh, thank you.
Just send whatever Margie's done and I'll get working on it. What's the theme anyway?
Oh, it's great. You'll love it. The joy of sacrifice.
Great. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Hello, I'm Dr. Henry Cloud, and I talk to people like Sherry all the time. Sherry is trying to live her life the right way. She's trying to do a good job with her marriage, her children, her job, all of her relationships, and her Lord. Yet it's obvious that something isn't right. Life isn't working. Whether you're a man or a woman, you can undoubtedly identify with Sherry's helplessness, her confusion, her guilt, and especially her sense that her life is out of control. Sherry suffers from severe difficulties in taking ownership of her life. She isn't able to draw and maintain boundaries around what is hers, boundaries that would help keep out what isn't hers. You know, in the physical world, boundaries are easy to see. You've got fences and signs and walls, moats with alligators, manicured lawns and hedges. Those are all physical boundaries. Despite their different appearances, they give the same message. This is where my property begins. Now, the owner of the property is legally responsible for what happens on the property. Someone who doesn't own it isn't responsible. Well, in the spiritual world, boundaries are just as real, but often harder to see. The goal of this session is to help you define your intangible boundaries and to recognize them as valuable tools for living a healthy life. Boundaries keep us from taking on things we shouldn't, helping us not get overcommitted, and eliminating the stress that goes with that kind of busyness. Boundaries free us to love other people so that when we're loving them, we're not resenting them at the same time. Healthy boundaries mean a life in balance and the ability to care for yourself and when and where appropriate, to care for others. Boundaries define your soul and they help you to guard it and maintain it. You know, just as homeowners set physical property lines around their land, we need to set physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries for our lives to help us distinguish what's our responsibility and what isn't. As we see in Sherry's struggles, the inability to set appropriate boundaries at appropriate times can be very destructive. Sherry has great difficulty knowing what things are her responsibilities and what aren't. And in her desire to do the right thing or to avoid conflict, she ends up taking on or owning problems that God never intended her to take on. Let's look at some of them. Her mother's chronic loneliness, her boss's irresponsibility, her friend's unending crises, and the list goes on. Sherry also fails to take responsibility for herself, her poor choices, her non-existent limits, her unhappiness, and this list goes on too. What causes such weak boundaries or boundaries that don't exist at all? Well, a variety of things. Past hurts, poor models, and sometimes misunderstood Christian teachings. Whatever their root, it's easy to see that Sherry needs clearly defined boundaries, and so do you and I. Boundaries define us. They define what is me and what is not me. A boundary shows where I end and someone else begins, leading me to a sense of ownership. And healthy boundaries are what we'll be working towards in this session and the 8 to come.
I'm Dr. John Townsend, and I know that you've been working with some important concepts just now, some of which may have been new to you. But the idea of boundaries is not a new concept. Back in the Garden of Eden, God told Adam and Eve about ownership. Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Made in the image of God, we were created to take responsibility for certain tasks. Part of taking responsibility, or ownership, is knowing what is our job and what isn't our job. It takes wisdom to know what we should be doing and what we shouldn't. The Bible tells us clearly what our parameters are and how to protect them, and we'll be looking more at that in coming sessions. Right now, let me remind you once again of the importance of boundaries. Knowing what I should own and take responsibility for gives me freedom. If I know where my yard begins and ends, I'm free to do with it what I like. But boundaries do more than just allow us to care for ourselves. They also help us care for others in a healthy, Christ-like way. Maintaining boundaries, or put differently, taking responsibility for my life, helps me to recognize that I have choices and that I don't need to be limited by circumstances or other people. I can take greater control of my time and my energy and my resources, and I can find freedom to serve others in the ways that I choose. This freedom that comes with knowing boundaries leads to love, because love requires freedom. If you have to do something for someone and you don't have a choice in the matter, you're doing that something under compulsion rather than acting in love. You are doing that something in fear of either the person's withdrawal or their attack, or just to avoid your own feelings of guilt. But if we're free to say no, then when we do choose to give, we are giving out of love, and our service is truly Christ-like. As you saw in this session, we need to take responsibility for feelings and attitudes and beliefs, choices and thoughts and values and limits and talents and our desires and our love. All of these lie within our boundaries. But taking care of what lies within our boundaries isn't easy. Neither is allowing other people to take care of what lies within their boundaries. Setting boundaries and maintaining them is hard work, but you've taken an important step today. See you next time.